made the album special because with strict cost control, somebody coming in and saying you had now 8 hours in the studio, it's getting too expensive. This is stopping creativity. So we're lucky that in a way, in the end, it was a successful record. Also, it was very expensive.
I mean, when we did the album, we already, I mean, not a huge hit, but we had a hit already, you know, with Dr. Mabuse.
That's right.
Which gave the indication for the record company. Okay, they already have they already earned money with Dr. Mabuse because it was a hit in England and some other countries. In Germany, it was top 10, so it sold quite a few copies. So they could kind of calculate. They still took a risk, I guess, yeah, but they could kind of calculate. Okay, if we do an album with propaganda, there will be a return on this investment.
But not as big as with Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah.
So that was for them,
Yeah.
it became the priority because that was really also for them the cash cow. Like the money was coming in from Frankie. And that meant, for example, that we had to wait for many months because all studios in the complex of Zahn were used for Frankie. We didn't get studio time. We didn't not even get Trevor Horn time. We didn't get access to the studio because they were doing mixes, remixes, Two Tribes, Relax, and the album. So we really had to wait here in Düsseldorf. And that was a pain because we had a big gap after the big hit of Dr. Mabuse. And people started to forget about us because in pop music, 3 months is a year. And we waited nearly half a year before we could continue.
Oh, I see.
I mean, with the success of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, I mean, obviously there was a big change within ZTT Records. I remember there was a time after, I think it was after Two Tribes came out, and it was a smash hit, really big hit also. And I remember seeing a chart, I think maybe Paul Morley showed me, that ZTT Records as a record company became, in a certain period of time, was bigger than CBS Records in terms of sales.
Wow.
You know? Because they were so massive. I mean, not over a period of a year, but maybe over a period of 2 weeks or something. They were massive. I mean, obviously they had a massive return on investment, of course, you know. But yeah, of course, I mean, Frankie Goes to Hollywood were ultimately bigger than propaganda, but propaganda did age very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So yesterday we celebrated 39 years of course, July 1st, 1995, right? So 39 years, man. You know, who would ever imagine that almost 40 years later we'll be talking about what happened 40 years ago, you know? So yeah, that means at least that was record. So the record was released, and then what happened next? You know, the record label said, we spent X number of dollars. Now we need to recover the investment. So people were buying all the time. CD didn't exist. The internet didn't exist, you know. So obvious show was to, you know, go on tour, right? A tour in a little bit, Germany and Europe.
We had like 40 concerts or something. We did 40 concerts, 40 plus maybe. We went mainly in Europe, you know, South of Europe was very successful for us. France was very successful. I remember coming to France when P Machinery was out and we were promoting the single, and the record company was excited. They said, look, we sold 20,000 singles per day, you know, of that song, you know, which was like, yeah, I did not expect that. You know, that was like, wow, really good. And it was in the radio all the time. I mean, it was almost too much. You know? But yeah, it was, I mean, we went on to tour. The tour was nice. We did a few dates in Japan. I think we just played 3 dates, so 3 or 4 dates. And a very small North American tour, which just on the East Coast. You know, we were playing the New York seminar, New Music Seminar, and some gigs in Long Island, Washington D.C., Boston, Toronto, Montreal. That was it, I think. And the rest was Europe, all over Europe. And it went down well. I mean, we had a lot of, one has to say, we had a lot of backing tapes, because all the electronic stuff, we couldn't bring it onto stage. It would have cost a fortune at the time to do that.
Insurance, especially insurance.
Impossible. It was impossible. You know? So all the electronically, I mean, the drums, bass, guitar, vocals, and some percussion from my end and marimba, that was live. But the keyboards were basically coming from tape. But there was no other way we could do it, you know.
Absolutely. Any of the live shows were recorded at all?
Yeah, there were some You can find recordings from.
I have seen some on YouTube, but I don't know there were. But some of them.
You will find
I would love to listen.
Some radio recordings.
Well, there's also video recordings from a gig in Rotterdam. There was a festival. In Excess was headlining, I think. OMD were there.
OMD as well, yeah. Wow.
And that was, you can find parts of that on YouTube. And some other recordings. Then there's this, well, basically the same setup, not quite the same setup, with different drums. It was Steve Jensen on drums. We did 1 week in a theater in London, which was called The Value of Entertainment, where all ZTT acts were playing there. Was Frankie's playing?
No, that was not all. That was without Frankie, and at that time also already more or less without Out of Noise. Yeah, because they already left the label.
There was a time it was recorded. I mean, there was a propaganda gig with that went on for a week in a smallish type of theater, and that was very different drummer. That was Steve Jensen from Japan was the drummer in those. On those concerts.
And that was a bit of a ZTT showcase. More or less, they had at the time, after the big hits, they also had En Pigalle. And they had a band that only had, I think, had one record out, Instinct.
Yeah.
And they wanted to feature more or less the next generation of ZTT, but it was for them a bit of a bad timing because Out of Noise had started to leave. So they played Out of Noise as a backing track, but the people weren't around. And because they were so big at that time, Frankie weren't around anyway. Yeah, they wouldn't have done that for ZTT. They played alone.
Yeah, but that's recorded. You can find it.
Oh, I would love to listen to that recording, Miguel. If you can share that with me, you can send me an email. I would love to listen to what is out there and see if we can record that. So then, of course, compared to Frankie Go to Hollywood, the propaganda sales were modest. But then in '86, right? You guys, I think I read that and Claudia at the time was married to Paul. They needed to, I suppose you guys did okay. They needed to take a look at the contract and try to go to renegotiate the contract, right? And then a great album. You guys did okay. You will so the normal thing will be okay. Let's do album number 2, right? And then there were a lot of internal conflict about some of you leaving, some staying. You know this, and then instead of go ahead, feel free to elaborate on what happened there.
Yeah, the thing is now everybody wants to more or less give their version of the history.
Yeah, because, which I don't know, right?
Yeah, but you know, some people had the advantage, like writing books about that time. We know the contract was bad. That was one thing, and we were already in a way experienced. We knew that we had a base to negotiate, but we had another problem. That means we propaganda had another problem with ZTT. And that was some of the stuff that Paul Morley, he was part of ZTT, did with regard to our promotion, sometimes even the artwork and stuff. So that was really something we were starting to be more than worried about. and was one of the main reasons we wanted to have a change. But we had the problem that Claudia was married to Paul.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So that was, I think, and that was a problem also that was not, you couldn't take on a legal ground, because the lawyer at that time, the only legal point he said we had was the bad conditions in the contract. We couldn't really sue the record company ZTT because one of their directors was doing harm to our career in a way, or to our image, what he did, Paul Morley. So we had a few reasons.
He did a few bad things.
Yeah, and we as a band, we had different kind of arguments against ZTT, and the main problem was that some of these were against the husband of Claudia.
I mean, the dynamic that was within the group was not very good. There was a bad group, and the fact that Claudia was married to Paul, and Paul was a kind of always tried to get his influence through within the band. That was very disturbing. I mean, we had a management at the time who was basically taking care of us and taking care of the tour. And after the tour, there was a time where the band internally was discussing the possibility of seeing a lawyer and maybe leaving the label. Maybe, there was a very fragile situation. I mean, I was not very convinced that is a good idea, However, I mean, there was a situation where our management told us, look, you should see this lawyer, Brian Carr, and at least listen to what he has to say, and then you can still make up your mind what you want to do. And then a funny situation happened that has never been written down anywhere, never been mentioned. There was already this talk within the group, okay, we might want to see a lawyer for checking our relationship with the record company. And then one day, Claudia came in to a group meeting and was furious. And she said, I want to leave ZTT Records. They sacked my husband. What happened was Paul Morley was sacked from the record company for a very short period of time. And at that point, and we were like in shock, we were like, oh, fuck this. Sorry. Oh, this is okay. Dramatic. It was a dramatic situation. It was full of fury, and we were like, she was kind of pushing doors which were kind of slightly open already, but we were kind of ambiguous about it. But then when she came in and said, look, that's it, I'm not going to work with ZTT anymore. They sacked my husband. I cannot work with these people. That's what basically triggered us to go to see the lawyer. Then we went to see the lawyer, but when we had a date with the lawyer, it was already, this is like a comedy act. I mean, this is like,
you write a book, man.
This is so ridiculous. You cannot imagine. So we had the date with the lawyer, but by that time, Paul Morley was reinstated within ZTT Records. He was back. They kind of came to terms with each other, and Paul Morley was back at ZTT. And Claudia was saying, no, I cannot leave ZTT. I cannot leave ZTT, And this was like a real comedy act. But I said, look, she came along to see the lawyer, but she was totally anti anything that has to do with leaving ZTT. But the fact is, the true fact is, the main trigger from leaving ZTT came from Claudia Brücken, And the funny thing is that eventually everybody left and she stayed, I mean, that's such a curious development. I mean, I think Ralf knew the most about record contracts because he did that before. I did have really no idea. Now, Ralf had the idea, and our management had the idea, said, look, on the basis of your success with ZTT Records, you can very well renegotiate a deal with ZTT Records. You could. But then what happened was we went to see the lawyer, we listened to what he said, and we realized, he said, look, under the existing contract, you can record for the rest of your life, you will never earn a penny, right? This is useless. You have to do something, either leave or renegotiate. And the prospect of negotiation was definitely on the table and would have happened. But then what happened was, we had a gig in Aix-en-Provence in south of France. We had a promotion for our record, I think it must have been P Machine. And when we were leaving that gig, we were sitting in Nice airport in south of France, and Ralf was on a different flight. He was already gone, and I was sitting there with Susanne and Claudia, waiting for different flights. Claudia was going, I think, to a different place, and I was going to Düsseldorf. We weren't on the same flight. And while we were waiting for the planes, Claudia suddenly opened up and said, look, guys, I'm going to leave the band. So we were like, okay, good idea. Yeah, we're just starting to be successful. But she was like, totally, there were talks like, she said things like, oh, all the success is only there because of my singing, that kind of stuff. I mean, she was very young. I give her that. But she really, she kind of blew everything, So I never forget that, because I was in Nice many times after that. And I always remember sitting there when she opened up and said, yeah, I'm going to leave the band, planning my solo career. And Susanne and me, we were just, yeah, well, what can you do? And then basically the band was basically without the lead singer. We had a bad contract. The decision to move on was made basically by other people. I mean, we then suddenly said, well, there's no point in staying with them. And I guess I don't think even Trevor knows all of this. Trevor Horn, I don't think he knows all the insights of what actually happened. But it's a comedy act. I can assure you, it was a real comedy. It was ridiculous. It was
wow. I'm surprised that. Thank you for sharing this, man. Stuff is not written anywhere.
A lot of stories go around, and you think, well, that's not even half the story.
I mean, the funniest thing is nowadays, Claudia and Susanne are back being friends again. During the time we had the hits, like in starting 85, they had been close friends in Düsseldorf, and they totally split up. It was like Susanne was pushed into the shadows, because also in the videos, and so you could see that the role of her was being diminished, and Claudia more or less stopped talking to her when she was married with Paul. They really went separate ways. But that's in a way nice that they are back being friends again.
Yeah. I mean, that happens, you lose sight of people. That's, that can happen, but the way I see it, I mean, Ralf and I, we became more friends than we ever were during the making of this record. It took a long time to do this.
Sure.
But we see each other, and I find it extremely nice to work on a project and everybody likes each other. It's great. It's lovely.
When I go to Germany in the summer, I will visit you guys. I will take you to dinner. We'll phone up Susanne.
Yeah, you
Claudia, everybody at the same table. I will take you to a very good restaurant. Take a picture, make peace, because it happens in all the bands. The Genesis, the Pink Floyd, the Led Zeppelin, the Holly Johnson, and so bands. Sometimes the argument, roll and they get married, they want to have kids,
Yes.
they leave,
I mean,
they
to argue
argument. You know,
a healthy thing.
it's
I mean,
normal. It's part of life, I suppose. You know, like in
Absolutely.
marriages, sometimes, you know, things do not work out for one reason or another. You know, so you know, for me, I'm who am I to criticize? I'm a music guy. You know, and you guys have created, you know, one of the best albums in the history of music. And I told you before, I have so many versions. This is the second one that comes with a very
That
nice.
is a very bold statement. You know,
Very nice for sure. And this is a picture of the Steven Lipson finished work. All the tapes that were they were sent out to be remastered somewhere. These are the tapes.
Yes.
And they left some studios prior to being remastered. They were end up remastered. Then there is this guy. There's a lot of very nice picture, of course, and then a lot of different versions. And
we have nice memories. You know, it's like it was a great time. I wouldn't want to miss it. Really, honestly. I mean, it's like things got sour. Yes, because I mean, I'm an old-fashioned guy. You know, I believe in something and it becomes a success. That I believe in the fact that you should get a share of the success. Not necessarily an equal share, but you should get a proper share for your work. You know, which we didn't, and that's then. You know, that's also one of the
reason, right? Every time that this is another one. Every time that they call this wishful thinking, you get a percentage of this.
Sure.
A little bit, right? So
we get
royalties over time, right?
The royalties over time. I mean, we were lucky because I didn't realize at the time, but when you write, you get the copywriter. You are the You're on copyright for the composition and the lyrics, but I wasn't aware of the value of that, and that helped tremendously over the years. That's true. The license itself was
maybe we shouldn't go into the business details.
Minimals.
No, in general terms.
It's the same thing Holly Johnson and Frankie Goes to Hollywood had, and he wrote a book about it, so we had the same contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got it.
We met Holly last year, by the way. He was in Düsseldorf. He was, we're still in contact with him. I mean, it was so nice to see him. It was like seeing. I mean, we haven't seen him in decades. Really, the last time I saw him was in the 90s when we did the 1, 2, 3, 4 record.
Yeah, you missed him. I've seen him before when he played a tour in Germany, but Michael became ill, so I saw him playing with his band. I think 5 years ago, and. It was funny because part of this entourage of the crew was also Gary Langan. Gary Langan, who was at the very beginning also part of Art of Noise, and still big engineer, big producer. He was joining Holly Johnson at this tour a couple of years ago. So it was great to meet all these old faces again.
Wow, they're beautiful.
There's good memories of that, you know, despite all the kind of hiccups and curiosities that happened, and like it's sad. I mean, not nice that we fell out with Lipson with Steven Lipson the way we did now, but you know, I think that's I don't know. I can't quite understand why this was necessary. You know?
Yeah,
it's the way it is. I accept it. You know.
Got it. The follow-up album called 1, 2, 3, 4 was, you know, of course, Claudia was not there. Susanne sang in a couple of tracks, and then, of course, you end up hiring Betsy Miller, and so on and so forth. The album did okay. I mean, of course, they were not successful as a Secret Witch, but what you guys did okay. I mean, the chemistry was there to keep on working. Or
the chemistry was good. Yes, the chemistry was good. It was the difficult second album, you know.
And one thing that is interesting to know, because we didn't know it, but we have seen it now. At that time, I think this album was not selling as much as A Secret Wish. But lately, we had a look at Spotify, and we realized just due to Spotify, because they show you like the top 5 of propaganda,
Yep.
you will find a track from 1, 2, 3, 4
Yep.
between Machinery and Mabuse. So somewhere in the world, something happened with that record that we weren't aware of, and I guess it happened later. It happened maybe in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the reasons also when we considered, should we continue calling us propaganda? We realized a lot of the people in the world might think propaganda, singer Claudia Brücken. In another part of the world, people are thinking, and I guess that is mostly South America, propaganda, singer Betsy Miller.
That's right. Yeah.
So for us, it's a bit a justification to say the third album we did now with, again, a new singer is just a continuation of the propaganda story. And
Got it.
Spotify, in a way, helped us to realize that.
Got it. Got it. Any legal ramification of using so in 2022, right? Susanne got together with Claudia, and then they released the album called Under X Propaganda, which is a very good album. I really like them. And then you guys with the new album you call Propaganda. It wasn't like a legal issue who could use the name, or it was.
I don't think
It
so.
wasn't an argument that
the thing is, it was a bit confusing because they had already earlier on made concerts in Germany, I think also in England, where they called themselves Duel, and they performed most of A Secret Wish. And you could see posters that said Duel, the voices of propaganda performing A Secret Wish. So that was already a sort of established name from them as a touring band. So we found it a bit confusing that they suddenly made a change there.
Yeah, they wanted to call themselves propaganda and then they couldn't, because we didn't let them.
Yeah.
And then they decided to make this record. And I think the fact that they chose the name X Propaganda is kind of, it's the record they did 2 years ago is probably their take on what propaganda should sound like nowadays, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The record we did now is our take on what propaganda sounds.
Sure.
But we have all the right to use the name propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I founded propaganda long before even Michael came in.
Absolutely.
And I had a certain vision about what propaganda is. And so the continuation is fine. I just found it strange, using this kind of strange name when they had a good name before that. Because with Duel, they had an audience already. So we thought it was a bit of confrontational as well.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that they left the group 1986 and 1987, and nobody asked them to. I mean, it was their decision.
Yeah.
So I don't see what do you want to talk about. It's like
sure.
It was their choice, not mine or ours.
Yeah. Let's talk about your album and which is huh?
It's a bit early to talk about the album. You only know 2 tracks.
Yeah, but it's very good. I really like it. So I didn't know who Thunder Bay was. So I checked it out and went to different places, and she's pretty good actually.
She's good, yeah.
Pretty good.
It was funny. What happened was I had a small studio, right? And in the same building, a friend of mine I know for 40 years from studying music. He was also studying music as a colleague at the time. And he had a bigger studio. He was running a big studio. And then he gave me some time. He said, look, if I don't have any bookings, you can come just upstairs and work on a big sound speaker system. And it's better because my studio was small. I had not very good acoustics, but it worked. But it was very comfortable to work in his place. And he said, you can come here and develop your songs, it's no problem, we're friends, I like your music. So I did that. And the way that I write is when, I need lyrics to write a song, I need the lyrics. And Ralf gives me the lyrics. I can sit down and write the chords and the melodies, and we talk about it and, and develop it, And then normally what I do is, in order to when I want to keep a melody, I don't put it in on a keyboard. I sing it myself because I want the placing of the melody and see how it works. But I'm a terrible singer. I cannot sing. I cannot sing. I cannot keep in tune. But I get the idea. I'm very good at finding melodies. I mean, I think it's one of my things. But I cannot sing. So what I do is, when I'm alone in the studio and nobody's there, I record my vocals so nobody can hear it. Then you have the technical things nowadays. I can correct my vocals to the right pitch, the way it should be. So it sounds like a proper sung version of a song. But eventually, since I write for a female singer, right? There was this girl, Thunderbase. She was kind of hanging out in the studio from Peter, because my friend Peter was working with her, and she was really young singer, and he said, yeah, I want to try something with her. She's kind of talented. And I said, look, can I ask her to sing one of my songs? Because I want to hear it actually, how it sounds when a female singer is doing it. So she did that. She was, yeah, no problem. I do that for you. So she learned the song. She sang it for me. I recorded it and I had a version of it. Our initial concept of this album we did now with Bureau Bay was we wanted to work with 3 different types of guest singers.
Got it. Yeah.
That was the original plan, because we didn't want to have, well, basically that was the idea. But then what was happening was Corona came along, the Corona thing, the lockdown. Yeah. And we could not invite the people we wanted to try to have on our records because they couldn't travel. Nobody could travel. And at the time, what happened was I had 3-4 other songs, which I asked Thunder Bay if she would be so kind to sing this for me as a demo. And then eventually we were sitting there, Ralf and I were sitting there listening to the music, and we suddenly realized we don't want another singer, We kind of like her voice, And she fits the music really well. And she's kind of excited. She was excited about her music. She said, well, guys, this is so different to what I do. I mean, she's 25, 24. She's from a totally different world of music. But she said, I like the way you write your music, and I like the lyrics. And this is totally different to what I do by myself, but it's lovely. Yeah. And then there was a point where we suddenly realized we don't want another singer, And we asked her if she would be interested to do this, and she was excited to do this. So that's how this came about, It was a very natural process. It wasn't like, oh, we pick a young singer, so we have a young singer. It was none of that, So that was a very lucky coincidence, because she's a very creative person. I mean, we see eye to eye, She's an artist in her own right, and she's very artistic visually. She does our videos, She's very creative in many fields, and she's a lovely person to work with, and we have a good time.
Maybe next time we invite her over.
Yeah.
At least in Germany.
Of course, when we do a next interview about the album, we ask her in. Why not?
No, sure.
Yeah, of course. I will. At least in Germany, they have the 1 CD, the 2 CD with signed print, the 1 vinyl which is black, and the 2 color, the orangey one. And at least for the 2 tracks that are available are They Call Me Nocivo, and then Purvey Your Pleasure. It's pretty good, actually. Very, very good. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with, but I want to listen to everything.
Yeah. I mean, we can arrange. You get a pre-listen of the album. I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be good. I appreciate
but also,
it.
I mean, there's this guy called Maxit, right? He's mixing our records. We bring it to a certain level, and the final mixing, is done by a guy called Maxit. He's also from Düsseldorf, and I should mention him because he made some really great mixes for us, I have to say. The entire album sounds really, really good. I mean, we did a lot of production work, and to have the sound, the possibility to make it sound good. But I could have never mixed it the way he did. I mean, he's a great mixing engineer. Mix it double.
Gotcha. Well, I need to check it out. And you mentioned that so far the sales are okay. People are, the record label are promoting the album, and sales are going okay, right?
Well, it's the initial phase now, and what is really exciting, we have connections over the years to a lot of fans on different continents who have different hits. For example, some people like more the 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff, the other the Secret Wish stuff. Yeah. And we got a lot of good feedback from all kinds of people. And if the record does fine, I mean, sales-wise, it's just something that is good because we wanted, that was one of the reasons we also had chosen that kind of record company. We wanted the people to present with a record you can touch. That means the album, a vinyl album with artwork, and not just something to stream. And we were very conscious about delivering a sort of full package that involves then also different kind of artworks, little differences within the CD or the album, the vinyl. And there are a lot of people who like that approach.
Absolutely, man. When is the official date of the release? Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
11th of October.
11th October, yeah. Man, it's a long time away. I want to have it tomorrow.
We think it's not a summer record. We think it's not really for the summer season. It's more when it's getting a bit darker and colder. That's the right album for you.
But I agree with you. I can't wait.
I like music, man. I like, with that. And then, still it's too early to determine. I think if you could tour, but I think it's on the table, right? As a way of thinking that if the album continue to do well, and then the sales are okay to tour, with the two of you and Sander and probably a couple of other people to tour and listen something toward the end of the year, and then a bigger tour in 2025.
The year might be a bit too early, but let's see about that. Let's see how this.
I will fly. If it's in Germany, I will fly. I will fly, or if in Europe, I go often. But you guys are very, propaganda in general, right? The name propaganda, right? With Claudia and Susanne. In South America, you were very popular. Still are.
Yeah, I heard that. I know. I know somebody from Brazil, and she told me, said, "Look, Mike, that was like." Oh, this is a long time ago. She said, look, you should go to South America. You're big in South America because they like your music because it's so different to what they hear. It's something completely different. And, at that time we didn't have a setup, but we could have toured in South America. Easy, no problem.
Claudia was
from Chile coming over to Düsseldorf to meet us. He was touring. Carlos Hidalgo, regular. He's a fan from Chile who came over. We met him here in Düsseldorf.
That's great. Well, I will be the next one.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. And if you toured here in the United States, you're free to stay here at my house in Washington and then help you with the tour, because I know here I live in the border with Washington and Maryland, 3 states, and every band come this way. I mean, literally every band come this way, all of them. That's what I'm able to see around 60 shows a year. You know, the big name, the smaller venue, big venue, smaller venue. So I could recommend you many, many venues you can play here. And the show will be sold out like that. And I will, you know, and then maybe one day, you know, if things work out well, you know, I would visit you there and do so. I will buy Claudia and Susanne and all that and get together for, you know, for dinner and remember the old time. I will be taking pictures.
Yeah, it's good. I'm still in touch with Betsy and Derek and
Betsy, yeah,
absolutely, it's fine. I mean, as I said, I mentioned I went to see Susanne last summer, and you know, I don't have any hostility towards him at all.
That's great. Yeah,
absolutely not. You know, it's we have an interesting history together, and now you know, a long time ago, and we talk about what happened 40 years ago, more or less. But nowadays, it's like I'm easy. You know, I'm easy. Yeah. I'm into music. So maybe one day we'll do a reunion, you know, a tour with. You never know what's coming. You know, nobody knows. If somebody told me how my life would turn out, I wouldn't have believed it.
That's right. But anyway, but the new album it's great, at least from the 2 tracks that I have listened to, and great music, great singer, and Claudia and Susanne, they're doing well with Ex Propaganda as well. I wish everybody well, and hopefully I will visit you in Düsseldorf during the summer, and then take you out to dinner. And then I'm very interested in seeing the tapes, if the one that you have in the attics, and take a couple pictures. I know, again, nostalgic stuff, you know about I don't know, Dr. Mabuse. In vinyl, I have like for Dr. Mabuse. I think, and of course, P Machinery, and I have, and you will as well. I have like a 10 different version in 12-inch from different countries, different people, and yeah. So I'm not sure I have the third where I have my music, but man, that would Secret Wish. What a great album! The painful, crazy time, no money, arguments, and Trevor and Paul and Steve Lipson, you know, unbelievable. But, you know, beside all the problem and all the issue and people leaving, coming out, and issue with this, the contract, still it's a great band. And of course, this another version. You know, like it has 15 tracks and then 10 in the other one. Still, man, here's a very good fiction. It's a very great album.
It was a great time. It's true. It's good.
Yeah, of course. So it was very nice talking to you guys, man, and we'll do part 2 very soon, man. And I will
love you. Let's do part 2. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
It was very nice talking to you guys. Good luck, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem.